He says he is not giving up. The Libyan leader, Muammar Gaddafi, told the country just moments ago that he will not step down and warned that more people will die. He blamed the unrest of the past week on what he called cowards and traitors, likening protesters to rats. Now, it's hard to know just what is going on inside the country. All phone lines remain cut. What we do know is that Libyan diplomats abroad are breaking with the Gaddafi regime, and there are reports that numerous tribes in Libya have denounced their ties to Gaddafi. We begin with this report. All right, let's get analysis of this speech by Gaddafi. And to do that, I'm joined by our expert on the region, Michael Luders. Michael, we were watching this speech together. You could call it a speech. We could call it a rant if you want. Would you say that Gaddafi is a maniac locked in his own reality?
Absolutely. He has completely lost control of reality. He lives in his dream world. He has not yet understood that things are very serious for him in Libya. He's not willing to cede power to anyone but himself, and this spells trouble for Libya because it means that will be a bloody end to his rule.
A bloody end. Do you take him seriously when he says that more people will die?
Definitely. I mean, he has shown his brutal force over the past days, and he doesn't care about hundreds or thousands of Libyans dying. He wants to cling to power because he knows the moment he is being toppled, his own tribe, many of his members will be massacred. And of course, he wants to cling to power for this very reason, but he stands a good chance of ending like the late Romanian dictator Ceausescu.
Yeah, and yet he's not learning from the lessons of Ceausescu. I mean, you can almost see the erosion of power. It's almost palpable there. Are there enough supporters in the country right now to help him make this promise of bloodshed come true?
Very difficult to say. His tribe, of course, will follow him to the very end, but the rest of the country made it very clear that they are not going to follow his line. He has lost control over the eastern parts of the country. Many formerly loyal tribes, especially the very strong Wafala tribe, to the south of Tripoli have renounced their support for this leader. So there's no way for Mr. Gaddafi to get back to power. He has lost control of the country, and it's only a matter of time when he will have to resign.
Let's talk about demographics and numbers for a second here. You say his tribe will stick with him to the end. I mean, talk to me about numbers there. Are there enough people in his tribe to create this chaos and this bloodshed across the entire country?
No, definitely not. He has to fly in foreign mercenaries from Black Africa, which is underway presently. And this is very dangerous because it means more violence, more dead people. But there is no chance for his relatively small tribe that counts around 10 to 20,000 members. Exact details are not really known, but it is a very small tribe which carries the same name as himself. Okay. So it's difficult for him. And of course, his tribe is very worried that there will be a night of long knives at the very end.
Exactly. The revenge may come. Michael Luders, as always, thanks for your analysis of this. All right, but we want to go now to our correspondent, Karim Al-Gahari. He is monitoring the situation in Libya in neighboring Egypt. He's about as close to the situation as anyone can get. Karim, refugees have been crossing the border into Egypt, fleeing the unrest in Libya. What are they telling you about conditions in Libya?
Well, I think there's two things they're telling us. One thing is that the conditions are pretty bad, and they're repeating the stories we know about live ammunition used against demonstrators and this kind of stuff. But at the same time, they're also confirming that parts of the eastern parts of the country, especially the city Benghazi, seem to be under the control of the regime opponents.
What, Karim, are you hearing about the levels of atrocities being committed in Libya? Are people talking to you about what they've seen, about what's even been done to them?
They're basically one of the things is we have in Libya, there's about 1 million Egyptians living there. So, of course, many of them trying to go back now. And there are all kinds of stories, also quite a number of Egyptians died in the last days. Some of them trying their way back to the Egyptian border and just getting shot at and this kind of stuff. So these are the stories they're telling us.
All right. Karim Al-Gahari for us there in Cairo, reporting on the situation in Libya. Thank you very much, Karim. Well, Libyan diplomatic missions around the world have been the target of demonstrations this Tuesday. Some embassies have declared their allegiance to the opposition movement. Protesters have gathered outside the Libyan offices at the United Nations as well. The United Nations Security Council has also been meeting in a closed session in New York to discuss the situation in Libya. And we want to talk about that closed session. Max Hoffman is joining us from our bureau in Washington. Max, the UN Security Council, of course, met in a closed session today to talk about the violence in Libya. Do we know what came out of that meeting? Well, in Algeria, the government has announced that the state of emergency that's been in place for 19 years is about to be lifted. Algeria is one of the Arab countries that have been shaken by anti-government protests in recent weeks. In Yemen, several people were reported injured when scuffles broke out in the capital, Sana'a. Demonstrators demanding the ouster of President Ali Abdullah Saleh and his supporters clashed near the university with government loyalists. President Saleh insists that he will not step down before the end of his term in 2013. Well, the Israeli government has protested sharply against the activities of two Iranian military ships in the Mediterranean. The Iranian ships, a frigate and a supply vessel, passed through the Suez Canal on Tuesday and have now entered the Mediterranean. Tehran says the vessels were deployed to Syria for maneuvers several days ago. Israel says the ship's presence in the Mediterranean is a provocation. All right, Steve is here to talk about the connection, Libya, and the price of oil.
That's right. That's what the markets are still worrying about, Brent. Yeah. That takes us back to Brent.
All right, thank you very much, Steve. Rescue teams in New Zealand are searching for survivors of a major earthquake that struck the country on Tuesday, killing at least 65 people. Hundreds have been injured, and many are believed to be trapped beneath the rubble. The quake measured 6.3 on the Richter scale. It devastated parts of New Zealand's second largest city, Christchurch. It's the second time in 5 months that the city has been rocked by a severe earthquake. Well, the New Zealand government says that several countries have offered to help with the relief effort, including Japan and the United States. A search and rescue team has been dispatched from Australia. Well, here in Germany, pressure is mounting on Defense Minister Karl Theodor zu Guttenberg in the wake of controversy over his doctoral thesis. The opposition, Social Democrats, have called on zu Guttenberg to step down, but Chancellor Angela Merkel is standing behind the defense minister. He's accused of plagiarizing much of his doctoral thesis. On Monday, zu Guttenberg acknowledged making mistakes in attributing sources, and he has asked his alma mater to strip him of his PhD. All right, let's recap our top story for you now. Events in Libya at this hour. The country's leader, Muammar Gaddafi, has just made a defiant speech in which he vowed not to step down. He says that he will not leave Libya, but that he will die there as a martyr. Gaddafi refused to apologize for the recent violent crackdown on demonstrators and read from a book that listed the death penalty for crimes against the state. All right, Steve's going to be back with more business. Stay with us.